Every one of you has brought 5 questions each, so we have a rousing session awaiting.
Exactly.
us.
Oh, are you serious?
Haven't you? Did you not bring your 5 questions?
No. I didn't do my homework. I failed the class.
No, there is something I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Many people may not know what Ubuntu Studio is. Would you mind?
Sure,
Giving a little
I can
chat
talk
about
about that. Ubuntu Studio is primarily for content creation, multimedia, and basically doing anything you can imagine in a studio, whether that be audio production, photography, desktop, I always said desktop publishing, graphic design, music production, you name it, you can do it in Ubuntu Studio. And we have ways that people can install it on their favorite desktop environment on a supported Ubuntu flavor. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's content creation and whatnot.
So you've chosen specific apps and bundled that
Yes,
with...
we try to choose the best of the best as far as myself and the team have come up with in terms of what works best, what it integrates best with the desktop environment, what is proven to be the most featureful and get the job done the best. So like, for instance, you got KDN Live for video production. We actually have 2 apps for graphic production. It's Krita and GIMP, because there's still this mentality that both of them do the same thing, and then there's also a mentality that both of them do different things. So we figure, why not keep both?
They are different. They're like Painter and Photoshop.
Yeah,
There's a
but you could do
reason
both in each.
So
Yeah,
not
so
entirely.
neither
not
here
entirely.
nor there.
And do you have Inkscape?
But yeah, we have Inkscape.
Excellent.
And we also support Scribus, which is one of our, in our desktop publishing meta package. And we also just there's things like that, Darktable for photography, Rapid Photo Downloader also for photography to get those pictures off of your SD card. And there's also, like Ardor for audio production reasons, along with over 100 plugins. So you could have tons of audio plugins, whatever you need to do with vocals, instruments, what have you. We even have guitar amp simulators. So you have with Rack-A-Rack is what it's called.
Awesome.
And guitar, actually not Rack-A-Rack anymore, but because it had a failure to build a while back, so we got rid of it. What is it called? Guitarix, that's what it's called. And it is basically a plugin host that hosts all of its specific plugins, but those plugins could also be used in like Ardor or something, and it does guitar amp simulation. So you plug in your guitar to an audio interface, you run it through this, you can make it sound like it's going through a tube amp.
That is awesome. Okay, now you got my attention.
Okay.
So can you tell us, when did this start? It's been around a long time, as long as I've been in the Ubuntu world.
It's
So you've been
the
working hard.
fourth.
And how did you begin this, and has it changed significantly as you've gone along?
Oh, I'll go ahead and answer all 3 of those. It's been around since version 7.10, so we're at 18 years this fall. It's been, at first we started on the GNOME desktop, and then when the GNOME 2 desktop was sunset and everything went to Unity, the Ubuntu Studio team at the time decided to go to XFCE. So starting in 12.04, which was their first actual live CD release, before that it was a alternate install, it became XFCE. And that stayed as XFCE clear up until 20.10. And we decided, at that time, it was in 2018 when I got involved with the team and asked the team, we're not tied to our desktop environment. They all kind of had the mentality at the time that XFCE is everything. And I was like, is that really the thing we need to be focusing on? We need to be focusing on our apps and our audio plugins and everything, and our user experience. But do we need to be tied to our desktop environment? They're like, you make a good point. I'm like, check out all the other flavors. And let's get together in a couple weeks and figure out if we want to stay with XFCE forever. And at that time, it was like, yeah, let's stay with XFCE, but let's start a KDE Plasma version. And I was just like, that sounds great. How do we get the seed going for that? And it ended up being, after I talked to people on the technical board, it was like, That's going to have to be a whole new Ubuntu flavor. It's probably not a good idea. So in 2004 cycle, where I was like, okay, I found out that my lead developer was using KDE Plasma. I found out my lead designer was using KDE Plasma. I really liked KDE Plasma. I was like, maybe we should make that switch. So they're like, okay, you do all the work in the seat. I'm like, okay, fine. So I did all of the work on that in May of 2020. You know, we were in the middle of a pandemic. I had nothing better to do, but I did spend an entire month just grinding at that seed, making sure that the ISO built and everything. And eventually it came out, and people still call that one of the better versions of Ubuntu Studio that we released. And then our first LTS under KDE Plasma was 2204. And we've been with that ever since. So there has been a lot of change then. Also the shift from jack and pulse audio to Pipewire that happened more recently with 2404. Well, actually 23.04 is where we started that journey.
I don't do as much with audio production,
Yeah,
so I know
okay.
that there was a change.
Yeah.
But I know nothing about the underpinnings, but I'm sure you do. What challenges did you find in that change away from Pulse?
That change away from Pulse was that, but we have still found, because with 2404 coming out and Pipewire being the default, a lot of people have come to us and say, you broke my workflow. I'm like, well, your workflow is still there. You just have to switch back to the old thing, which you can still do with 2404. We can't support it though. Or you have to adapt your workflow and think, I don't need that pulse audio to jack bridge anymore. It's all one thing. So yeah.
So you're happy as a person who does creative work. You like the new
behind Pipewire. I also work with Robin Garris and Paul Davis of Ardor quite a bit. And they give me a lot of advice on how to help with stuff and change some of the things. And I even check the documentation on Pipewire to make sure that what we're doing is the correct way to do something. And as a result, I've got a GUI tool that I wrote myself that helps people change the latency and the sample rate for their various for Pipewire. And then, of course, you throw your audio card into Pro mode, and suddenly it has direct access, no sample rate changes beyond what the computer has been configured for, to be able to use that audio interface.
I'm very appreciative of your time, but I also don't want to hog the mic. I have more questions.
I have a question.
Okay.
So, as the flavor lead
Yeah.
for Ubuntu Studio, you must hear from users who are using it all over the world
Yes.
in all kinds of varied and interesting ways. What is your favorite weird, unexpected way that you learned thing that someone's doing with Ubuntu Studio?
So the first person that came to us a few years ago, he runs an audio book recording studio. And he switched everything at the time over to Ubuntu Studio. He was doing something else, I want to say Arch before, but that became unstable and broke for him several times. He just got tired of it. Went to Ubuntu Studio. He was actually involved with us for a little while and then decided he wanted to do the upstream Debian thing. I don't know why, but he is on Debian now, which is still a win as far as I'm concerned. And then there are 2 radio stations I'm aware of that use Ubuntu Studio. And one recently, I think in South America, just recently, within the past couple weeks, did the full-on switch from Windows to Ubuntu Studio as their primary driver for their radio station. So it's been things like that. And there's also one gentleman that I know of that uses it for some machine learning stuff. And that tripped me up because I was just like, machine learning, and he teaches in a school in Mexico, and I'm like, machine learning, how does that work with our custom tools in Ubuntu Studio? And he explained it to me, and it was way over my head, even as somebody who worked with machine learning stuff as part of the Ubuntu Focus project. And it didn't make much sense to me, but I'm like, okay, you do you, man.
And encourage him to make a YouTube video out of that. I want to see that.
Oh yeah, I think he should too, but he and his students speak mostly Spanish, so it might not translate as well to us. He was actually the guy who inspired Ubuntu to go to the Raspberry Pi. And so that's why we now have a Raspberry Pi architecture install image. And so yeah, I say we because my wife runs that one. She's the flavor lead on that. I'm just her tech person. And this gentleman, his name is Christian, he asked, when can we get this on Raspberry Pi? I'm like, I don't know. And then during the 2404 cycle, I was like, we're working on it. He's like, yes. So we finally got that out. He's been happy. The only problem is he's running older Raspberry Pis, and I have told him you probably need to start getting everything upgraded to the 5. So
Yeah, the 5 it's such a leap ahead of everything.
and it costs the same.
That's kind of amazing when you think about it. Yeah. Am I hogging? Do you guys have questions? Okay, we have another question. I'll go ahead and take a break, so just for you.
I have a burning question, probably off topic. But is anybody familiar with Windows subsystem for Linux? Any
Yes.
comments on it?
I can answer a little bit. He can answer a lot because he answered some of mine. Very faint.
It's on.
Is there a volume?
Check the battery.
Interesting. Thank you. So the good news is that this is probably one of the better places and rooms that you could have asked that question in, because we have a lot of experts here. So, well, let's hear the question first, and then I can.
Do you have a question about WSL, or you just want thoughts on it? Okay.
Oh, okay.
I figure it's a severe compromise. I want validation.
Oh, it's not a
Okay.
compromise at all.
So to repeat, he says he assumes it's a severe compromise and wanted validation, and I can say that WSL running Ubuntu or Debian or SUSE or Fedora or anything else, you're really running, say, Ubuntu. You're really running Ubuntu. You're really running it from the repositories. So it's not identical, but it's very close for a lot of things.
Yeah, and our team, the desktop team at Canonical, builds those images and works very closely with Microsoft. We have a fantastic relationship with that team at Microsoft. They are super supportive. We've worked together with them for many years on this. They've done a phenomenal job of integration, and it is wildly popular. Many, many, many millions of people use WSL every day. It's great, and it's the back end for a lot of other tools. So you may install something on your machine to do, say, AI development. And under the covers, it's actually using Ubuntu and WSL, like Microsoft AI Studio, for example, things like that. It can offload those sorts of workloads to a more familiar environment for those types of tools. Some workloads just, better suited. It's really a great developer story, is what it is, which is why Microsoft invested in it. They needed a better developer story.
Yeah, and so as difficult as it might be, or surprising as it might be to believe, they were very sincere about that, making it really first class for developers because they want developers to keep using Windows on the desktop. And so, yeah, if you install WSL and Visual Studio Code, it will detect, you launch code, it detects WSL, it suggests, you can say yes or no, the extension, and then suddenly you can see your file tree, click, you hit compile, it runs in WSL on Linux, and it's exactly, or very close to, exactly how you develop on Windows. It's just seamless.
And if you install a graphical app, the icon shows up in your start menu in Windows with a little penguin in the corner of it, a little penguin emblem. So you could snap install GNOME Calculator, and you get the GNOME Calculator on Windows, and it runs in WSL. But you can't even tell. You click on the icon, it just looks like any other app. Great.
Yeah. And people were angry, what, around 1704, 1710, when Canonical snapped GNOME Calculator.
I know, right? Now you can run it on Windows.
Yeah, I recently got a laptop, and on a laptop, the only thing I need with Linux is to shell into servers. Otherwise, it's just I need a browser, I need some graphics tools, that's about it. I usually use Linux because that's what I do. I am now unclean because it came with Windows, and I did need a Windows system for testing for a project I'm working on. But while I'm there, I heard about how great WSL is these days. So here's a very recent user experience testimony. I've got this Windows machine, and I was going to wipe it and put Linux on like I normally do, but I have a project that needs me to keep it there longer, but I need to get my servers access. So I opened up Terminal, and I turn on WSL, then I just type bash. And I'm in the bash environment I've always known. And you can even set the parameters for the bash window so it looks just like Ubuntu with that deep burgundy and a slight translucence. And I forget I'm in Windows because I'm on my Linux server talking with the bash I love using my app. It's the same environment.
Yeah, the only main difference maybe is, unfortunately, it's bring your own font. So you have to go to, I think, font.ubuntu.com.
Oh, actually, that was one of the outcomes from having the last Ubuntu Summit at The Hague. It is now a crime against humanity to use any computing system without having installed the Ubuntu font.
Yes. So maybe someone should talk to Microsoft about Ubuntu font. But it's just, it feels like home in that little window, or maximized window, so.
Are there people, show of hands, does anybody run any computer of any brand without having installed the Ubuntu font? Because it's a really good design. Like, yeah, who would do that?
I only run Ubuntu, so.
Yeah, good, bad, but of course. But like I have it on my Mac, I have it on my Windows. I don't know how how do you run a computer without putting the Ubuntu font on it first?
Yeah,
That's just silly.
I talked my way to the beta test for Ubuntu Mono and was immediately, or maybe the Ubuntu font altogether. I don't remember. Mono was different, like 2007. Well, okay, so yeah, Ubuntu Mono immediately became my favorite monospace font because it's monospace. It's clear and legible, no 1LI, all that stuff. You can tell the difference. It still looks like the Ubuntu font, and it looks like a proportional font while still being a monospace font. It's not weird, blocky. It's like, oh, this looks really good. So, yeah, I can't bring myself to change the Windows console to Ubuntu font and run a Windows command prompt, command shell. But yeah, it's my favorite monospace font. It's just really great.
It's among the few fonts where the difference between period and comma is visible at distances of greater than 2 feet.
Do we have any other questions? Not at the moment, or? So the nice thing about this is a very, very small group gathering, but the good news with that, we decided to go ahead anyway, we can guarantee that we will get to everyone's questions.
I have another question, though.
Okay.
But it's more Ubuntu Studio stuff. Do you guys mind?
Sure.
Because the thing is, a lot of my friends are creatives, right? So I have graphic artists, and I have a lot of musician friends. I do have a subset of friends who are both musicians and graphic artists, but very few.
Huh.
So have you heard feedback from anyone saying, why not just graphics or just music? Or is it extra work for you to do both? Or why the decision for all of that? Because it's a pretty broad spectrum of tools you have.
That is several releases PE, pre-Eric. And I don't know why that decision was made. I also led Fedora Jam for a little while, which is specifically music and audio production. And yeah, that question does come up. It's like, why not focus on just one? And talking to the people who were involved at the time, who are still on the team today, they are like, it's because it's studio. It is not just audio. It is graphics. It is anything. Okay, let's take the desktop analogy. You know how you have your folders and your pencils and whatnot for an actual desktop. When you want to get worked on an actual desktop, the desktop metaphor. This is the studio metaphor, where anything you could do in a physical studio, we want to be able to bring to the desktop. So whether that is a drawing studio, or, I mean, it's in the repositories for, like CAD would be in that architecture studio, paint studio, photography studio, things like that. Oh, really? 5 minutes? You're giving me that? Okay. So I was just embellishing, but I can go ahead and stop. Yes.
I have no idea.
Are you familiar with DaVinci Resolve?
Yes, very familiar with it. Actually, at one of the places I used to work for, we had experimented with it. And I often get the question, and it's mostly posted to our X/Twitter account, can't you guys pre-install DaVinci Resolve? Or can you do that? Can I make one request? Could you install that? And the reason is it's not open source software. It has to be open source software in order for us to package it and pre-install it and have it in the repositories, or even as a pre-installed snap. If they wanted to create their own snap, they're more than welcome to, but we still can't pre-install it.
I have like 30 minutes of questions about Ubuntu too. Okay.
We can do one.
We're going to have you come back. Do you mind?
I don't mind at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we'll
I
talk
might bring
about
my wife, who is actually the Ubuntu lead.
This is
next
my
to-
first time meeting him, Steve, and because I have so many creatives in my life, I've been looking forward to this moment. That's why these are my pent-up questions. Thank you for being so
Yeah, you
kind
bet,
about
you bet.
addressing them.
Yeah.
Do we want a group photo? There's us, but we are the people here at the end of the day. We have done this before. Yeah? Oh, that's right, because we have everyone coming in. Let's do that tomorrow, because then we got all the people who are
That's a good
still in
idea.
transit. That's a smart move. Okay, you get the last 2 minutes, Nathan. I have a question for you. What are you going to do for 2 minutes?
So I'd like to entertain you all to my interpretive dance of snaps versus flatpacks. Yeah, that was. I glanced at my watch and I knew those cards were there, and that was the. I'm very tired because I've been traveling, and that was like the brightest moment of the last half hour. So, what I really love about UbiCon is that, well, one, it's a really great idea. And so I was really, really happy when Amber Grainer told me it was a great idea and to go and do it. And we didn't have much time, and maybe a month or two, and SCaLe said, sure. And I put out to the community, hey, do we have any talks? Anyone local? Anyone coming to SCaLe? And people were like, yes. And we had more talks than we had room for. And then the room filled, and it was a new concept. So we had two-thirds, 75% of the room filled up. And so, well, the speaker was speaking, I ran to SCaLe and got more chairs, and they filled more chairs, and then those immediately filled up. And then by, not much longer, it was standing room only. So we got to do it again and again. And so I get to, people like it, enjoy it, but I get to meet the most amazing people working on Ubuntu, working in Canonical, working in the community with Ubuntu. And that's really one of the nicest things. So Ubuntu Summit, we did it first, in some ways. So that's been really, really, really great. And at the Ubuntu booth as well, we get to meet so many different people from so many different places. I'm not ever going to talk to microcloud people on the internet because I'm too dumb for that. I'm too smart in other things, and I'm not a developer. But they're at the booth. I'm learning all about this. And we had Ubuntu Focus come and provide a laptop for the speakers here today. And they have two systems, a laptop and a Nook device, a super powerful one, at the booth. And they volunteered to come here, and they got to show off on, well, they're selling them and making them, but they believe in Ubuntu. And that's a product that runs with Ubuntu based on that. And we can see, they're great guys too, but you get to see that cool thing. And I get to talk to them. And that wasn't really on my radar. I'd heard of it, and System 76 is across the way, and we could talk with them. And Carl Rochelle's great. And
our featured workshop last time, Nextcloud, is here this year at SCaLe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Nextcloud's here. They're great. Everyone in that booth, Debian, Fedora, SUSE, they're all fantastic. So I think it's open, Susan. So we get to, so you can turn the music off. I'm almost done, promise. So this has been a really great opportunity to not only get to know all these great people, Canonical and the Ubuntu community, but also showcase the work others have done and really answer people's questions where they just are working with Ubuntu and they're just not really sure. They want to do this, or they don't know how this, or is there a feature, or what are we working on, or what's next, or how do I get answers? And I get to do that all weekend long alongside other people who are just as dedicated, actually more dedicated than I am because they have paychecks, but it's been fantastic. And of course, I get to see my friend Richard once again, which I always love.
And we get another year with, because I'm old, and in the olden days of the Ubuntu, we used to have different community managements. And then there were many changes over the many years. But today, the company has changed, and it's in a good place. And Aaron is the community team. I mean, Aaron has a community team. Aaron is the lead for that. And, anybody in the home office watching, the man does his job really well. Our meetings are productive, focused. It takes a lot of little steps to do our little one-day thing here. So many parts, and the booths, and all of that. Thank you for all your good work.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
thank you for making this a huge success this year and last year, the year before, and the Canonical's continuing support is fantastic. So,
And that's, the gratitude for just the ecosystem, both the community and the company, with good mutual respect and coordination is something that some Twitter drama open source projects could learn from and be inspired by it and rise above to meet.
yep. So I think that wraps it up.